Hi guys, my name's Rastona. I run a guild called Fractured over on Draenor EU. I thought I'd put a video together for you guys just to kind of share some of the things that we found really useful during progression. Probably a lot of the stuff we found along the way, if we knew from the start, we probably could have saved ourselves some wipes. So yeah, I hope it's of some use. By no means is this the best way of doing things. I'm sure you'll find your own ways of doing things during progression as well. But yeah, like I said, I hope some of the things can help you guys out. I'll start with P1. I'll break it down, show you some of the markers, where we moved, why we moved, and how we moved as well. So when you enter the room, you start on star, so it's a good starting point, I guess. First bait and second bait are on square, third bait on purple, fourth on cross, and then stack for intermission. Arrows, first set are between green, second set are between blue, and then the third set are on purple. Explain the gateways as we go along as well, but we use them to bait. Arrows will generally always be around star, just keep that in mind. Whenever they spawn, we get the raid to run towards star. Okay, let's start off. I'm not going to explain the mechanics, the basic mechanics. I'm sure you've done alright, so you have some understanding of what's what. The first thing to note, so there is a lot of unpredictable damage, and it can be really unlucky and get lots of the stacks from the arrows. But then on top of that, if you get hit by the desecrating shot or you stand in the swirlies on the floor, yeah, it's pretty easy just to randomly die if you're unlucky in some way or another, or just bad. What I did have the raid do, I set or suggested you just have on DBM or bigwigs, you just have the countdown for desecrating shot, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever. Because again, it's probably one of the hardest hitting things on DPS if you just randomly stand in that. So yeah, just worth doing. Just put a 5-second countdown on the desecrating shot. I think I messed up my taunts here, typically on the pull. I tabbed out there, but these are the swirlies for the desecrating shot. They come in 2 sets of formations, so one's clumped up and the other one's pretty spread out. They come in sets of 2. So yeah, I mess up my taunt here. I think it's because he actually AMZs it, so he doesn't get any stacks. DK is huge for this fight, by the way, like massive. You'll see in P3 as well. But yeah, tanks just switch every other set if possible. We get the first set of chains here. As I said, I should taunt here, but he didn't get any stacks, so I just zoned out probably after 200 odd pulls. You know how it goes. First set of chains. So chains, what you'll generally want to do, you don't want to assign cooldowns. I don't think you, at this point in the tier, like, you shouldn't be really popping them. Maybe hunters, sure. Maybe a boomy if you're really struggling, but just kind of split the range somewhat between left and right. When I say left and right, we always use left and right indicators like from the center of the room outwards. Some people use it the other way around, so left would be like, well, the opposite. Anyway, so like I said, I'll show you the spreadsheet we used. We did somewhat split the raid and kind of assigned some range to each set of arrows. Melee do switch as well, only because we have to hold DPS, but if you're struggling, then obviously try and keep as much range on the ads and keep the melee on the boss as much time as possible, for as much of the time as well. Okay, so again, because I fucked up my taunt, Chaos Element gets the arrow and run out just because I'm brain dead. But as you can see, everyone switches to arrows. Okay, so here's your first bait. So the first bait, as I said, is on square. We use a gateway. So we use a gateway from the center of the room, which is where all the ranged are over the square. And the reason we do that is, again, just so we can maximize the uptime on the boss. When you start pulling, you might struggle to hit the intermission percent before the last set of arrows. So yeah, just maximizing the uptime on the boss as much as possible. We also keep melee on the boss. So the way you bait with Veil, the way it works, is you don't need the entire raid to bait. the veil will land where the majority of the raid is currently stood, or it will basically target somebody where the majority of raid is stood. So again, healers and ranged, they just gate. To have gate off cooldown for the second time in this intermission, in this phase, sorry, you want to gate roughly around the 6 to 5 second mark. If you do it any later than that, it won't be off cooldown for the second bait. So I always call bait now around this point, and you'll see. There we go. They leave it quite late. Okay, it should be fine. So I get melee to death here. Watch out, these ads fixate, and if you are within range, the hitbox is ridiculous. Just move away. Okay, another desecrating shot. Watch your feet. There you go. That's the first one. Nice sequence pattern. Second one, spread out. They come in different orders, so it's not always the sequence one first. Right, so we're all stacked on square now. We get the second set of chains and the second bait as well. This weak aura, I think it's pretty much part of every pack that you download for Mythic Sylvanas. So the only thing I can just put advice, make sure everyone has the same left and right macro weak aura, sorry. That can mess up. Like if people have different ones, it will suggest for people to go when they shouldn't be. It kind of prioritizes people based on the number of stacks they have, and then it kind of it does prioritize certain classes, or certain weak auras will prioritize certain classes. So just find one which one works best for you. Again, ranged, or those who are not assigned to left or right, they bait the veil. Okay, so you can see myself, a couple of healers, a couple of ranged DPS were stood back here to bait this second veil. And there you go. I'm not sure about this, but through the entirety of progression, I never saw veil like on a chain target. The only time we fuck this one up is where people run out too soon, and then basically the majority of the raid isn't stacked where you want to bait. Okay, arrows. During the veil, obviously everyone hits arrows. It's kind of a priority during these arrows. So we get the first set. Let me have a look. Of the Ranger's Heartseeker. Well, second actually, because the first one is actually on a tank. That's the big change, obviously, in Mythic. Through phases 1 and 3, your range will have to deal with them as well. So we place them in the middle of the room. During progression, again, on this set, we were slightly behind on boss damage. So I told my melee just to stay on the boss and not switch to these ads. These Ring of Frosts are huge, okay? Make sure that you kite these ads into the boss. When they get to here, I'll probably place a ring around here as well, so they don't start meleeing the melee who are targeted on the boss. There you go. Place the ring. And these are just sort of cleaved down by ranged. Okay? There's not loads of them, so you don't need to worry. Vortex goes down, things like that as well, so that's pretty big. But yeah, those should die with your melee being able to stay on the boss. Okay, so we get the third bait in a second. You'll see, again, range will start to move over to the left here because the gate goes over to purple. Dodge the swirlies. Okay, and there's the gate. So I think they leave it really late because a lot of them gated really late on the last one, but you'll see them go across now. Yes, just waiting for the cooldown to come off. So it's as the cast starts, it is late. Like, you don't need to do it. Like if you gate around the 6 second mark on the first one, it will be up long before this cast starts. So again, you bait the veil. One thing to note, if you're in a position where you are legit blasting, you know, you've got the gear. We can do this on reclears now, but probably not during progression. you can actually phase the boss here. So remember, obviously we lost on pull, you get first pots on pull as well. You can actually phase the boss here, which is huge, because you don't get another set of chains and you don't get the tricky set of ads, or the big set of ads. Okay, I don't advise it during progression, but yeah, that is possible now. Okay, so we all run to the middle and watch out for swirlies here. These aren't you'll see them spawn now, but these aren't on timers, but they hurt. These swirlies hurt. Okay, so again, get out of them. You saw the raid there, like 70% of his HP. Bam. Chain assignments again. There is this phase weak aura. I highly suggest you get it. We always had to stop DPSing at this point. Again, like I said, if you can try and push it to 84% before that veil even finishes, that's huge. You skip these arrows, but chances are that's not going to be possible when you first start out. So we call for a stop on boss. This really pissed me off during progression. Like she bounces, and I still can't really figure out why, but I think it's like she jumps away from where the majority of the raiders stood, but she lands on top of the arrows. You end up obviously having to cleave the arrows down, and the boss just drops, and very often you don't phase it when you want it to. So just keep in mind, try and single target wherever you can, even if the boss is on top of the arrows. She phases at 84%, by the way. So the last set of arrows, okay, this is pretty spicy. Okay, you really got to watch your feet. You've got to watch it when you get targeted. Again, this is where a blood DK is absolutely massive, because you can just grip all the ads in and just stun them and blast them down. Okay, we place a cooldown for this these sets of arrows. You can also get targeted. So Kama was second. So Sylvanas drops his arrow, his ad spawn. Kama can get targeted by one of Sylvanas' ads, which is shit, because you need to really be careful where you place your arrow. So the way we did this was, the first would always be placed as far back as possible. Ad spawn. The second one will be placed in front of where the ad spawned, because if you're targeted, you still have time to place it in front. And the third one, basically on top of everything else, if you're not targeted. Okay. Try and keep them clumped up, just saves a lot of hassle. So rings again, very strong. Okay, so here we go. DK grips them in. We get knockbacks. And as these ads are being cleaved, you get the last desecrating shot. So I always called this. So like at this point you're like, kill ads, kill ads, kill ads. But everyone forgets to watch their feet because they're too busy padding, basically. Okay, so I say spread, spread, spread here. Run in, quick stun, ads die, nice and clean. But you can see the raid damage, it's huge, okay? Especially if you get hit by these swirlies as well, and you get many by ads. So don't be afraid to use personals there as well. Okay, so the reason you hold damage, there's two reasons. Obviously you've got ads up, but most importantly, you want to have DPS cooldowns up for the intermission. So you basically want to push it to 84% as the veil cast goes off. Okay, so we hold. This veil cast starts in 3 seconds. We wait. Cast starts, and we've pushed her. Okay. That means you don't get the next set of arrows. If you don't hit that check, you'll get another set of arrows, and it's basically a wipe. Okay. We move to nipple. We stack on nipple. A couple of cool things. So if you are a hunter, I think DKs can do it as well. If you deterrence before the arrows are assigned, you don't take damage from the arrows when they go off, which is pretty big. So I did assign like DPS to these arrows, and Boomy's hard carried his face. Like literally, Boomy's are huge on this fight. Bring 2 at least. But yeah, I did assign some people to certain sort of locations. The spawn location isn't set, so you can be unlucky. But just kind of remember, if you're going, like, just go to the same set of chains, like regardless of the pool. Like if some aren't dying, I would move somebody across, but consistently keep going to the same set. Okay, that's where you're gonna basically see the most progression during the intermission. If people start switching up and they see like the bigger clump and then they go over there and they think they can, you know, pad a little harder, don't, just keep going to the same set. SLT is huge on this one. Always advise it because there's quite a bit of damage going on, and then the speed totem is huge as well because people can get to their chain. So there's the SLT. Naughty Rogue didn't get inside, but yeah, you can see it's pretty heavy damage. Ooh, Bop clears arrow stacks. So if you've got somebody on 5 stacks prior to this intermission, just throw them a Bop. Okay, dodge shit. It's pretty self-explanatory. Note, during these rives, stand on the edge of the room. Don't make it more difficult for yourself. Like if you're stood in the middle of the raid, like these guys, sure, it's an easy intermission, but it's easier when you just stood on the edge of the room. Okay. This will one-shot you. These swirlies won't. So you can take one hit of the swirly, but definitely dodge the rives. Okay, that's P1. Let me just jump over to the spreadsheet. So I'll share the spreadsheet, or I'll share a blank version with you guys. P1, range split. This is on a just point out, this is a re-clear spreadsheet, so it's not what it looked like on a kill, but I kind of assigned left and right. And I assigned for each veil, I assigned a speed increase. So chamois are huge for obviously the speed totem, but so are druids with their raw. I got the timers on here as well. There's a weak aura, and I'll link it. This is a really great weak aura. It just reminds you when you're actually supposed to use your speed increase. So you can basically just assign, or everyone who has a speed increase just takes which veil or bridge they're supposed to use their cooldown at. And it just pops up on your screen saying use raw whenever, or use windrush whenever. So yeah, that's P1. We're on to P2 now. Okay, so P2. I kind of stole this from another video that's been posted online. They didn't share their spreadsheet, but I had a quick glimpse of it, so I managed to sort of make a copy. I put timers on here as well, just for DPS, so they know when they have their cooldowns, or when they should have their cooldowns up by. And again, just to note, this is a re-clear, so some of the things aren't quite as they were on the kill, basically. Anyway, you got straight and you got right. You got add priority, so always focus the soul down and the summoner on the right. Then you got the first stack, that's the first blast, it's also second pots. Then you got the big dude, so you got one team that goes left and the other one that goes straight. And then you got the last stack before P3. So the way you kind of want to do this is you want to assign a couple of cooldowns for each side. I think during progress we assigned, I think it was roughly 2 to 3 DPS. The DPS adds down on each side, and I'll explain why you want to do that as well, because you want to prolong each platform as much as possible, but you don't want to get a double set of orbs on each platform because it's quite heavy raid damage. So yeah, you kind of want to balance it out, and you also want to push each platform at roughly the same time. If one is miles ahead, you'll want to move people over, or maybe add an additional cooldown on each side, depending on how it goes, basically. 2 healers each side. It's pretty basic. Yeah, I'll jump into the video and explain as we go along. Okay, so again, as I said earlier, this is a very long fight. Don't get pissed off or don't call a raid wipe if you have 2 deaths in P1, because you get 2 free battle reses in P1. Okay. If you have like one person dies at the start of the fight, like I did, and Inflex died at the end, again, they can be rezzed. You have 2 before you get into P2, so don't call a wipe if 2 people die in P1. Don't rush. You have loads of time, so like don't use your movement speed increase. Don't use any of that to get to the edge of this platform. There's loads of time. I think we had a roar here. These first bridges spawn at the same time. But we had a roar, got everyone, and you run across. So as you're running across, you'll get the first set of waves that you have to dodge. On this one, it's not too bad, but on the next one, there you don't have to rush. Like, people think, oh, quick, let's get to the edge so we can DPS them down as quickly as possible. Like, just stand back and dodge the wave. Don't rush. Just take your time, basically. There's a weak aura that will assign which ad needs to be DPS'd first as well. I'll share that with you guys in the description. But yeah, so it's pretty basic. Kill the ad that you're assigned to. Didn't even target it here, but this cast, interrupt it. Have a DPS or a tank on the other side. You do get a set of orbs. I'll grab a POV for that in a second and show you guys, but you have to kick one of the orbs. Okay, so again, in P2, this is definitely the easiest of the phases, I should say. There's probably 1 or 2 areas where you might need to focus up a little bit more, but the only thing you really need to watch out for, this veil or any of the veils, you don't want everyone to spread out around the platform. You want a range stack and you want a melee stack. The reason for that is so you have some room in between the 2 veils where you like ranged or melee can move into. Obviously these circles you need to spread with them, but in general, just make sure you have a range stack and a melee stack. That's what we found very useful. This tank on this side. So I've seen people do this now. This Goliath, basically, he gains stacks based on how long he's hitting a target. So the longer he's hitting a target, the more damage he's going to do to that target. You can actually have a melee or anyone quickly taunt the Goliath off when the stacks get too high and then taunt back to reset the stacks. We just use cooldowns because we're dumb as fuck. But here we go. So there's the veil. You get 3 veils across both platforms. We were really unlucky here and we got both of them. Okay. But generally you'll get 1 or 2 here and 1 on the other side, or 2 on the other side, 1 here, whatever. Okay. New set of ads spawn. The small ads, they don't do a lot of damage. They're generally, you can CC them as well, so you can stun them and whatnot. Yeah, don't worry too much about them, basically. Okay, so as you can see, I start taking a lot of damage here because these stacks are just racking up, basically. So have someone taunt around here and the stacks will just reset. Okay, so they were ahead on the other side. They did, of course, stop DPS on that side, but yeah, people are too busy blasting. So move to the edge of the platform. And again, we had a speed totem here for us to get across. One thing to note, actually, this is quite funny. Despite them being ahead, the stone bridge takes like longer to spawn than the frost bridge. So you can actually run. Like, even if that side's slightly ahead, you can actually run. So second pots, again, if you have cooldowns, blast here. Okay, the lower you get the boss in this phase, the better. This is, again, it's really scripted. So after a bunch of pulls, you get waves, into veil, into waves, into spread, waves, and then this is where we use the gateway. Obviously, it was focus gateway back then, but you no longer need to use that. Just use the item on the veil. Do not gate too soon. If you gate too soon, the indicator for this is basically Like when the first circle appears, then you gate. Okay, I place a Transcendence here because on the second one, I just run straight to the back. So tank damage in this fight in general is it slaps. So don't start running DPS trinkets on progression. Like, run defensive trinkets. Don't be afraid to use them. Okay, this Banshee's Mark slaps. That's why DKs are huge again, because you can AMZ it and you don't get the stacks. Okay, a wave into spread. And we run to the back of the platform. Boss becomes immune. Okay, there is a wave during this. I'll see if I can show it on here. This is P1. First platform. Okay. I didn't show you the orbs, but I'll show you them on the next platform on this POV. Okay, I'm jumping all over the place here. So here we go. Here's the first blast. Waves. Okay. So this next set of waves is during the spread. So just be careful. Like, again, be consistent with the way that you're moving in this this part of the fight. Like, if you're running ahead consistently, keep running ahead. Like, if people start mixing stuff up, you'll soon get familiar, like which position you're going to be stood in, where you're going to be running, basically. So here, he gates. I don't think we actually see it on this. We get these circles, but he gated consistently. Okay, so he knew where he was going to be stood by the time these circles were going off. And there's also waves behind. So there's two ways you can deal with this. You can either run ahead and just ignore all the waves, or if you stand back, dodge the wave first, and then find a safe place to stand. That's the easiest way to do it. The people in the middle are basically going to have to find a spot as these circles go off, just as the wave is coming through as well. Okay, some people are going to have to do that, but again, like I said, people know where they're going, roughly where they're going to be stood. There's the wave behind. Okay, so this is something I wish we knew during progression, because it's probably the hardest set of waves. You're running to a new platform, there's new ads on the way. Like I said, again, just chill. Like, there is on this bridge and this bridge, there are two safe spots. I'll show it here. There are two safe spots, and we didn't do this on our kill because we only figured out during reclear. There are two safe spots. You can stand. I think it's roughly here on this bridge format. There's another bridge format which is thinner, but you can basically AFK the entire wave if your group is basically stood there. Okay, we try and get to this platform as quickly as possible. So the ad here and on this POV, the ads that spawn on the other platform, they don't actually spawn until somebody puts their foot on this platform. So you can legit just AFK the wave. I think on this one it's around here. This one might knock it off, so yeah. But you can just AFK the entire wave before standing on this platform. It gives the tank more time as well to pick up the ads, because he's the first one on the platform. Like, we had people just run ahead, and even though you have Mr. X and whatnot, tanks just, like, you're naturally a step behind. So just AFK the entire wave and then go onto the platform. Like I said, you want to kind of delay each platform as much as possible without getting the second set of orbs that spawn. But it's huge, okay? So highly advised doing that. Okay, add spawns. Let me just show you the split. So on this one, you kind of want to blow the ad up as quickly as possible because there is a lot of damage going on. So we had both our boomies pop their CDs, and they legit hard carried. On a reclear, I think we added the rogue in as well, instead of the demon hunter CDs. But yeah, boomies hard carry this. Okay, not only because they have strong single target defensives as well. You know, you got bear form, you got buckskin. They just legit carried this side. The reason we put loads of people on this side again is minimal cooldowns. Again, ignore the names of CD on. I don't think we're currently using that many, but yeah, you just have a lot of people over there. So the only thing you really need to be careful for on that side is the veil. Okay. But yeah, they hard carry. So I recommend, so you got the tank, the healer, 1, 2, 3. You got 4 DPS and a tank and a healer. The only reason you bring the additional DPS outside of the boomy is because the bombs that go off, the abilities that get put on random players, the more people that soak them, the less damage they take, basically. Okay, so like I said, this was a good number for us. If you're struggling with the damage, I'll show you the bomb in a second, but if you're struggling to deal with the damage, bring another person across. Okay, so this guy does a frontal, and the way it goes is frontal, veil, move, frontal, soak. Frontal, again, I just called the veil. We had a dome on the first set. So these are the bombs that I'm referring to, the expulsion. Okay, so 2 people get targeted. You need to stack both of them. See the bark skins are going up. What I've also noticed now that when we're re-clearing, because of the fact that we wait before we run across, like we legit just AFK the wave before we run across, we actually get the veil before the first expulsion cast goes off, which basically means that we can use the full use of the dome rather than having to run out of the dome, which you'll see now because of the veil. So you basically get the veil and then people get assigned with the expulsion cast. So there's the veil. I think everyone uses a movement speed to get out of it because it's pretty tight. If the tank gets the expulsion, just move away. Like, you can solo soak this and it just saves the healer on this platform a lot of hassle. Okay, maybe pop a cooldown. I think I used my fortified as we came onto the platform just because it can be a little spicy, especially if people get clipped by the wave. But yeah, move away and get ready for the next frontal. Move it away from the raid. So you'll see it just legit just drop now because the vent here, broken. Second one, we had a darkness. I stacked with the raid again, and then I moved out because I got an additional, and you may get another frontal, but don't worry too much about tank job, right? Okay, on the other side, let me show you. Okay, so again, you don't have to rush across the wave. Wait for the wave to finish, then come across, add spawn. So again, you have 3 healers on this side because you only take 1 on the other side. So you can fuck things up a little bit. Like if you stand incorrectly or get hit by the frontals or, get clipped by a wave, you've got an additional healer here, luckily. So yeah, but obviously try not to. Veil. So they get 2 on this side, and you get the orb spawn during the veil. So one of these orbs, I don't think it shows on this UI because it's, yeah, great, great health bars. But you need to kick one of the orbs. So the same thing applies to the first platform on the right side. You also get the set of orbs, okay? Because the summoner spawns them. Like I said, the aim for these for these platforms is to have enough DPS, not pop a cooldown, but you also don't want to spawn a second set of these orbs. That's your kind of benchmark, okay? Well, basically, if no DPS pop cooldowns on the platforms, you can pop them when you're blasting on the boss. and boss damage over ad damage all the way. Okay, so just try and find a balance, see what works for you guys, move people around or move CDs around using the spreadsheet that I'll share. Okay, again, when these orbs go off, we had CDs assigned. Nice late AMZ there. But that's pretty much it. You do get a wave on this side, so you do need to dodge the wave. It's quite easy though, because you're quite close to where it spawns. In fact, it's kind of perfect based on where it spawns, because the gaps based on the size of the wave itself makes it pretty easy to dodge. You say that, people still get hit. Cool, and this is the last stack, or the last platform where everyone stacks up and they burn again. Some people save their second pot for this platform based on if they have cooldowns or not. So just, again, I'm not going to go over each individual class and where it's best to pop their cooldowns, but yeah. So, just like on the first stack, it goes wave, veil, wave, spread. Wave, veil, again, these ads spawn, they don't do a lot of damage, but yeah, misdirects, stuns, CDs, CCs all work on those as well. Wave, and then we get the spread. So a good thing to point here, you can use these bridges for the spread. People think they don't work when it comes to spreading sometimes, so yeah, but you just use them. Don't just use the platform. Right, so boss percent. I think when you're going for your first kill, you really want to keep in as close to the 77% mark as possible. Okay, so just kind of use that as a benchmark. Just try and get it within the 77% somewhere. If not, you're really going to have to make up for the DPS in phase 3. So if you're not hitting that 77% check, you're probably not going to hit it in phase 3. So again, this is where you would generally look at your cooldowns and say, well, I'm probably popping more cooldowns than I should on the ads, or probably pushing the platforms too quickly to not have cooldowns up for the boss burn. Yeah, just use that 77% as a sort of benchmark. Okay, so that is phase 2. Pretty basic. Again, the most difficult platforms are the second split, where you get the big dude. Again, the thing that probably could have saved us a hell of a lot of wipes is just waiting on the platform for the waves to pass. But yeah, other than that, I think it's probably the easiest phase to deal with. Okay, moving on to phase 3. Well done, you've made it so far. It's a long fight. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Don't be disheartened if you have people dead in phase 2. Going into phase 3, just keep pushing, keep practicing the locations of where you stand and the order of the way things happen in phase 3, basically. So as you spawn in to phase 3, you can actually get, I don't think I show it here, yeah, you can get a global off as you come in, so you can reapply a dot. You saw some ice lances go out. It's very quick. It's legit one global. Okay, I think it's just as the blasphemy cast ends, basically. Yeah, there you go. So you can apply a dot or whatever. We did push it below 77%, so that's huge. Okay, so let's start with positions. On the document that I'll share with you, you'll see there's 2 pictures because during progression, some nights people couldn't make it. We were heavier on melee on certain nights than we were on ranged on others. So this picture here is done in the raid plan website, basically. Build your own if you want to, or use the template that's in the document, whatever you want. But basically, the key thing to note here is once you've been given an assignment and you kind of know where you're going to be stood, the way or the best way to find out if you're in the right spot is basically look at the markings on the floor. Okay, like use that as your sort of indicator if you stood in the wrong spot or not. Pretty easy. Okay, these circles or the ones sort of circled, the number circle basically, are the soaks. I'll explain as we go along through phase 3, but the green ones are the druids, who do on the second platform they double soak twice, and the red ones are on the third platform where you do the quad soak twice basically. Okay, P3 soaks, I've assigned them here, so again, like I said, druids do the first set. I've got immunes on the third. You don't necessarily need an immune. The reason it's useful to have an immune here or a port is because I think it's the first set on both of them is as a veil cast goes off. So what you don't want is, let's say one of these people who does the soak, if they also get the veil and they stand in the circle to do the soak, they also get knocked forward. And if you get knocked into a whole bunch of people who are spread perfectly in their location, let's say 9 gets knocked and basically puts veil on these 3 people, just a bit of a letdown really. So if you have an immunity or a port, I advise you sort of, well, this one more than anything because of the size of the group and the chances of it happening. Druids doesn't really matter too much on the first one. Okay, there's not too much else going on. Like, yeah, sure, if one of them gets veil and gets knocked into raid, it's shit, but you can deal with it. Okay, so again, remember your location, find the spot on the floor that kind of helps you know where you're stood. Tanks can stand on top of each other. You pretty much outgear it. There's 2 times you would spread to these locations. You get the circles around you, the screen, and also the veil. So yeah, I'll explain this as we go through the video. Okay, so what you want, so when you come on to the first platform, let me explain tanking in phase 3, because I think this is probably the hardest phase for tanks, and it's also where the tanks take the most damage, like a shit ton of damage. The kind of general rule of thumb that you want to go with is that one tank will always be tanking the boss. The only time that tank will not be tanking the boss is when they jump to platform 2 and 3 and they get the arrows. Okay, it's the only time that tank will not be tanking the boss. The other tank, their duty is basically to go around and pick up the shit on the floor. Okay, that is the basically the only thing they do, and it worked really well for us. Stagger and AMZ, just the way we sort of split it was like I was always running around picking up pools and it's magic damage, but yeah, DK AMZ was great for just tanking the ads and keeping himself up because he's just constantly able to hit the boss. So that's the way we split it. But again, like I said, have one tank focus on being the sort of primary tank for the boss, and the second one just is basically on pool duty, running around picking up pools and dropping them off whenever you get the cast. Okay, so the moment we land on this platform, I run to platform 4 and 3 and I pick up the pools on those platform and I bring them back to platform 1 before the first Fury. Okay, so I've got 26 seconds to do it. The way I time it is roughly, I run really soon here. You don't really need to run that soon. Around 8 seconds before this veil on reclears, I just start running over to the other platforms. Okay, because if you run too soon, you're basically just sat here AFK waiting for these pools to spawn. That's the reason why. So pick up the pools. See, it's pointless. You just have to wait for them to actually activate. So one thing to note, okay, this caught me out a couple of times. When this veil goes off, the swirlies that you have to soak on platform 2 and 3 also spawn on this platform. So if you're not off this platform by the time this veil goes off, you will get knocked up, because the way this, the circles work is if nobody is soaking them, everyone on the platform just gets knocked back. So make sure you're off this platform by the time the cast finishes. This one. So we run over. Continue to pick up. So I have kind of got my cooldowns down to a T on this, where I knew what I was popping when I jumped and when I came across. I think the reason monks are really strong for this is Zen meditation actually works as you pick up the pools, so you can literally just pop it. As you can see, I do it here. You pop it as I land on the platform, and I just run around and pick up the remaining ones. It's pretty broken, and it's like what, 90% damage reduction or something ridiculous. Okay, so I think I have a POV. We can use this one. The other thing to know, so here's the first veil. So after this veil goes off, what we did was we had our monk. Now, it doesn't really matter. You can use different classes. You can use, some people like to use a healer so they have more DPS on the boss, but our monk was pretty confident. He also dispelled himself with diffusion. So, yeah, pretty broken. But what you want to do is you want to make that person run to platform 2 just as the veil goes off. And the reason I say just as the veil is you can actually time it, where if you jump from one platform to the other just as a veil cast starts, and it happens to target you with a veil, it doesn't actually apply the veil. So if he jumps just as the cast goes, use that as their timer, basically, because you can just avoid getting a third veil, basically. He picks up everything, so he's obviously got Tiger's Fury as well, Tiger's Lust. So you can get around pretty quickly, clear everything up, roll, and then he basically knows which corner he goes to. I think the boss is in his corner here, so he goes over here, and he just dispels himself, and there we go, drops the pools. Okay, there you go. At this point, I'm also coming back from clearing the other platforms. The other tank's still tanking the boss, and basically you get your first Fury. Again, another reason monks are pretty broken for this. You can just Transcendence out after your dispel, so you don't even need to worry. You can roll out. It's pretty useful. Paladins can horse, of course. DKs can use the little wheelchair mobility that they have after the dispel. But yeah, so we stack. So this is one thing, other than the Fury, the one thing to note is don't be afraid to stack after Veils, okay? So outside of Veil and Fury, you'll probably want to be spread in or just stood in your location as much as possible, okay? After the Veil, it's important to stack. And I see a lot of guilds do this where they basically just, they stay spread and like their Veil is just not dropping as quickly as it should, okay? So don't be afraid to stack after the Veil cast has gone off, as long as you know what's coming next, because you might get circles or you might get blades or whatever. But anyway, so again, my Transcendence is placed, so he's dispelled in my corner. I don't really care, I'm just going to go pick up some stacks and drop it as far in the corner as possible. Transcendence, I forgot to place it. Dispel, and boom, straight into the middle. Okay, this is pretty oik. Like, obviously, you just want to be careful where you stood here. I think they didn't even get to stack. Yeah. It's after the cast goes off. And I get your first raise. That's platform 1. So platform 1 is pretty piss. As long as you spread for the Veil, it's a bit of a joke. So the moment you jump across, you get your first set of arrows. Okay. So this is, one will always go on the tank. So this is, again, like I said, the only time the tank not tanking the boss does not have the boss is when he gets the arrow. So immediately when you jump to platform 2, the other tank who's in charge of picking up pulls will taunt the boss. This set of arrows is the one people get most confused about, because every set of arrow you jump across, you wait for the arrow to land, you jump back, the next person jumps across, wait for the arrow to land, jumps back, and then the third person jumps. However, on the first set, on the second platform, the person who gets the third arrow, so in this instance is Path, I think. Yeah. This person needs to jump, not just to this platform on the left, but he needs to jump to the last platform, the 4th platform. And I don't know why or how this is designed, or why it's designed like this, but you basically have to do that, otherwise this person won't have enough time to get from this platform to this one before this arrow actually lands. So the way you deal with this is once this first arrow has landed, and I'll explain, because a lot of people jump too soon, and there's a lot of weak auras which will actually tell you when to jump and when not to jump, etc. But the best way to deal with this, I'll explain in a second. So when this first arrow goes off, the second person jumps across along with the third person. Okay, so if you're assigned, if you get this third arrow, wait for this one to go off and jump with the second person. And instead of staying on the on the third platform, you jump to the 4th platform. So the best way to actually deal with this is you jump in this bottom left corner of the platform. So you land on the edge of the 3rd platform, and you can just immediately jump to the 4th platform. Okay? So I guess during progress, what might make this easier for you guys as well is don't just rely on the weak aura, okay? Because it's quite deceiving. The animation of the arrow is what you need to look for. Like this arrow here, even though like it says, the weak aura says the tank or chaos has finished his arrow, the arrow has not even left Sylvanas, and the damage only happens when it hits. Okay? So there's many ways of doing this. You can use weak auras, whatever, but call done. Like, be vocal about it, okay? If you're still on that platform, like, yeah, just be vocal about it. Just say arrow 1 done, arrow 2 done, next one jumps across it. Then you just have that sort of confirmation that it's safe to jump, basically, okay? So again, at this point, the arrow goes off, and as you can see, Pencil's weak aura, or the weak aura has already said that Pencil's done. He has not. The arrow has not landed, so the damage is still to come. Okay, so again, he jumps from not to this platform, but he'll jump to this platform over here in the top left. Okay. Something else to know: when this arrow goes off, you also get a veil at the same time. I think it might be the Scream, actually. It's prior to that. Anyway, I don't think I've got a POV of it. Basically, the third arrow, where are the first soaks? They're coming up. Okay, so as I mentioned, Phase 3 is extremely scripted, and the only difficult thing in Phase 3 is really managing tank damage, you know, the stacks, and making sure people are stood in the right position. That's basically all you really need to worry about. The rest is just following a script. There are weak auras that will actually tell you what's coming next. I mean, if you want to read them, you know, if you've got enough attention to actually read every single prompter that comes up on your screen, fine. I just called it, and after 150, 200 odd pulls, I could memorize it. So I knew what was coming next. Pretty basic. Okay. So Scream into Veil into first soaks. We stay spread for Veil. Get the Veil, nice. And then again, like I said, after the veil we stack. Just get in the habit of doing that. After the veil, just stack up. It means everyone's in the healing cooldowns. It just makes life a lot easier. Okay. Also, that means you're ready for the fury, which means everyone's in the healing cooldowns for that as well. So again, I always run out a little bit early here, and the reason I did that was because we had people assigned for dispels on specific tanks when they called for one, but just in case somebody missed a dispel or somebody else had a stack, it was just easier to get an earlier dispel, just so that, you know, like anyone who doesn't have a dispel can then just dispel the tank that actually needs it when the cast goes off. Because what a lot of guilds will do is they'll delay this dispel like right until the Banshee Fury cast ends. The good thing about actually so the tank that's on the boss, the good thing about like him running to the edge to get a dispel as the cast goes off and not before the cast starts, is she moves. So if you like run before the cast starts, she'll run with you to the edge basically, and all the ranged or all the DPS and whatnot, they just follow the boss to the edge of the run. So if you do it as the cast starts, she doesn't move. Spell, and we stay in the healing cooldowns. That's it. We had a couple of deaths for this during progress. These pools when they spawn, again, I just said watch your feet whenever they were spawning. But yeah, you can see again, Chaos is tanking the boss. I'm on pool duty, running around, picking them up. Okay, so these knives are completely like, it's just a brain dead mechanic really. The way we dealt with it, if you get a knife, just stand still, let the rest of the raid move. Yeah, don't overthink it, just stand still. Okay. It does apply a dot if you get clipped by it. So I don't think it will kill you, but the dot probably will. Okay, so again, another veil, spread for positions. So you can see here, I haven't picked up these pools. I probably should have, but I have 10 stacks already. If I was to pick up all the pools and get hit by the veil debuff, I probably would have died, and I think I do die, not on this platform but the next one, because of that. It's really, really unfortunate, and you need to assign or call for sort of DRs on the tanks at this point. Like I said, the tank damage is the one problem you're going to have in this phase. Okay, so I don't pick up these because I see I've already got 10 stacks, and I'm like, I don't want to risk being hit by the veil and having even more additional stacks. So it's a little tight here. There is room. Okay, I think I die here. So this is a prime example. I get the veil. I have 10 stacks. Okay, well, I've just noticed something then. So, not my fault. It's my co-tank's fault. He didn't taunt the boss. I got Heartseeker, and I legit just die because I've got 13 stacks and I've still got veil. Boom. Okay. So, yeah. Again, always make sure that you have a designated tank dealing with the boss and a designated tank dealing with the stacks. Okay. I think what might have actually happened here is he jumps across to clear on the other platform. So I won't blame him. Not the end of the world though. Some people do get stacks. So this is pretty big as well. If you have a priest MD before you go across, so anyone who does have a stack can just get their stack cleared before they jump across. So anyone who dies on a historic platform will get ported to the next platform. So as you can see here, you can res the person. You don't have to run back to the previous platform. Okay, get a Fury. So platform 3. So the end of platform 2 and the end of platform 3 are the spiciest in this phase. Like that's the only time you're really gonna probably see a lot of wipes. Okay, platform 4 is just a joke. So yeah, keep an eye on your tanks. Don't be afraid to pop personals and DRs as well. Right, so this is the platform where you get the quadruple soaks. So again, everyone spreads to their location. You get knives, you get scream, into veil. Scream. Into veil. So as I pointed out, the first soak on this platform and the first one on this platform, you get the veil cast during the soak. So you'll see now, this is also a thing, by the way. double soak on a ring. So this is huge because normally it would have been Nalina. So the positioning on these is random. Sometimes you get one over here and you just have to go in and pop an immunity, okay? And hope you don't, the other person isn't there, basically. The other person needs to move back. Okay, so as you can see, the veil cast goes off. As the veil cast goes off, this mage here, he alter times. So he gets knocked off the platform and then he alter times back on. Okay, big play. Another thing to note, I guess, you get 2 sets of arrows on each platform and you get 2 sets of veil. Everything comes in 2 sets, basically, and 2 sets of soaks. I'll share our healing cooldown sheet. However, it's the pretty generic one I think everyone uses. Yeah, I'll share it with, I'll show you it in a second, but just kind of make do with your own cooldowns and adjust whatever you think is necessary. Yeah. New pools. Watch your feet. This set of arrow you can just deal with normally, okay? You don't need to jump to the 4th platform or last platform. Just deal with it one by one. Again, make sure you wait for the person to come back. Here, this is actually quite important. On the 3rd platform, again, the overall damage can be quite high with the quadruple soaks and whatnot. So we did assign cooldowns for these arrows and we made sure that everyone was stood inside them as well. It's just huge. Okay. AMZ works really well for arrows. Okay, new pools. As you can see, tank was over clearing the last platform, so he's still picking up the stuff. He's got 9 stacks. He's just going to pick up the boss now. And we get a Fury in a second. So some people... Oh, no, it's the next one, sorry. Okay, perfect. So this is the only real spicy bit. Because you get Death Knives into soak. This is where you want as many people with an immunity. Bubble, ice block, deterrence. Rogues work well, Cloak of Shadows work. But this is where you want as many immunities as possible to soak the last set of soaks, okay? Because you're going to have a lot of shit on the floor. And if you can immune, you can actually avoid getting a stack completely. So mages can blink in to where they need to soak, ice block, not get a stack, and alter time back out. Or double blink. It's huge, okay? But obviously the other thing you need to be aware of is you get Death Knives first. So you get Fury into Knives into soaks. So I always used to call, as this Fury cast was going off, I'd be like Knives into difficult soaks. Knife, just drill it into people so they know that if they have an immunity, they need to be using it here and using it on the soak, basically. Okay, Knives into difficult soak. So people with an immunity can already start running like to this side. Like you don't want to be stood here really because you're probably not going to make it. Okay, difficult soaks. As you can see, people run in. Ice block. He did get a stack, but it's not the end of the world because again, you can MD if you have a priest, which I hope you do. You can MD prior to going to the next platform, so it doesn't matter if you have an extra stack here. You do get one more veil, so unfortunately, tank on bitch duty does need to go around and pick up the pools again. One more veil, and then basically you get the raise. So I called for stack, and the kind of shit thing was we kind of stacked on this side of the platform when we probably should have just stacked on that side. But again, no biggie. Okay. We get the MD here again. You can see the cast going off. And there you go, last platform. Okay. So the moment you land on the last platform, you get arrows. So what really cucked us here as well, again, remember the tank that gets the arrow, you need to taunt off. But during progress, we had like 1 or 2 pulls where I either taunted too late, and what then happens is she starts casting. So like when she lands, you'll see it now. So she lands in the middle of the platform, right? She assigns the arrows. If she starts casting, and let's say you forget to taunt, and then she starts casting, there's a very big chance like this tank will run to the edge of this platform and the boss will just walk with her, meaning the raid's just stood far too close to where the arrows are going to actually go off, which means you just take a shit ton of damage. So yeah, make sure that you taunt from the tank that basically isn't dealing with the arrows, taunts immediately when she lands, and you pull the boss back. Here the cast, see? She doesn't move. Shit tank. Move quicker. Okay? So, again, we assign cooldowns. Everyone stacks on the sigil. We use a gateway, so we gate back instead of gating in. Okay? The reason you do that is because the damage from the previous arrow is, yeah, you just don't want to get clipped by it. Okay? Like, you can take some running in from the previous one, but you don't want to gate in and be on top of the person when the other arrow goes off. Okay. So this set of knives and this fury is the only time you will not stack during a fury. Some people do stack, and they just get the knives to move out. But if you have aura mastery, or just a holy priest in general is quite big for this one as well. Like major sort of healing cooldowns are really, really useful for this. Okay, so because you spread and you get knives at the same time. So I ask for a dispel. I say light spread or spread because again you get the knives during the fury. Okay. The number one thing you basically don't want is the entire raid stacked here. The people with the knives spread and then they just clip the entire raid. Like, the reason you spread, again, you can probably clip 1 or 2 people. Like, at this point, if you have a death, depending on what your DPS is, but at this point in the tier you shouldn't have an issue, you can have a death, so just make sure you spread. Highly recommend. Okay, so knives go off, and it's basically a free kill here. Scream into Veil, into Lust, into Kill. Okay, so again, I make some room so someone can stand in here with the Scream. You do get new pools, so watch your feet. Into Veil. At this point, I also say, like, you can see there's a lot of pools here, right? Don't worry if one of your DPS gets a stack at this point, because they need to stand somewhere. So I think you see Path and Pencil get a stack here, but like, don't worry. I say don't worry about getting a stack, okay? Just spread. And then we Lust, Pots, and Blast. So the only thing you need to deal with is probably an additional set of arrows here. Only 1 goes off for us. Stack on the sigil, stack on the sigil. Again, arrows in 10 seconds. Chaos gets first arrow. I taunt again. Papega tank should taunt over here so the boss actually moves. But we had luck. We had so much healing cooldowns left at this point. It was just pop everything and survive, right? So in the healing cooldowns, arrows move to the back. You may get a set of knives. You may not. Again, just move them out of the raid. Don't get hit. Stop moving before they finish. And it's a kill. Okay, so let me share a quick overview of the healing cooldowns. I'm not going to go into detail. It's Vizario's healing CDs. Just Google it, you'll find it. One thing you'll need to set is where you phase. We have a 2:25 minute now as well. But yeah, just fill this out as you normally would. I guess if there's any sort of advice I could give on this, SLT on intermission is huge. In P3, SLT on Fury, and then Aura Mastery on arrows is huge because people are going to be spread or jumping across. So you can AM before the first arrows go off. They'll also take advantage of it when they run over. But other than that, oh yeah, Lust after the Veil on the last platform. But other than that, just do what works best for you guys. Cool. I think that's everything. If anyone has any questions, I'll share this blank copy of this spreadsheet as well for you guys. But if anyone has any questions, yeah, pop a comment or add me on Discord. You can find that on WoW Progress as well.